Hey, peace. What's happening, everyone? On our deal with.
Ooh, yeah. Nah, nah, nah.
Suddenly there came a sound from heaven, as of a rushing mighty wind, like the rushing of a mighty wind, like the rushing of a mighty wind. Come and fill our hearts again, like the rushing of a mighty wind, like a river that is overflow, like a river that is overflow. Come and fill our hearts once more, like a river that is overflow. Let it overflow, 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 let it overflow.
Yeah, blessings. Once again, you know the routine. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell. All of that helps. So you don't know. Without any further ado, let's get started.
Who are these slaves? Where are they from? Which territory did they brought them from somewhere? Where are they from? The slave you're talking about, because I want to know where is this slave from.
Oh, that's easy. The slaves were the natives. We are the natives. We didn't come from Africa. I would say less than 20,000, less than 10,000 slaves came from Africa. Less than 10,000 slaves. You can laugh all you want, but you can't prove we came from Africa. You can laugh all you want, but you can't prove we come from Africa. Less than 10,000 slaves came from Africa. You can laugh, but
How
you
many
can't prove
slaves?
it.
Hold on. Less than 10,000 slaves came
Yeah,
to
I would say
America
less
from
than
Africa?
10,000. Yeah, less than 10. I would say less than 10,000. I
I
can
was
even give you
making
50,000.
when I
That
came
would
to
still
this
be nothing.
planet,
If we were to do like percentage wise, I know you said only a small portion of slaves came to America, but I think it's a little more than what you claimed. I think it's closer to 400,000 slaves that came to America in the Atlantic slave trade. And I think, but the point that I would make is if we were to trace your heritage back throughout, I think it's more likely for the average FBA, his heritage is more likely going to go through the transatlantic slave trade than it is going to go to 1526 or the pre-Columbus explorers that came here. I think less than 1% of Black people, less than 1% of Black Americans, FBA, are going to be able to trace their heritage back to the pre-Columbus explorers or to 1526 or even to 1619. The vast majority, over 90% of FBA, is going to have their heritage go through the transatlantic slave trade. And so, you know, for y'all to say, oh, you know, we were here before that. And I'm like, what type of mathematics are you using? Most slaves came through the Atlantic slave trade, and less than 1% of y'all are going to say is going to be outside of that. So how do you respond to that?
Oh, okay. I'm going to give you an expert. This is an expert of the transatlantic slave trade. His name is Dr. Greg O'Malley. He's one of the top experts on the transatlantic slave trade. And listen to what he has to say about America, United States of America. Listen. Hang on. Here we go.
The colony of North Carolina offers a great example. A book that I read on slavery in colonial North Carolina taught me that there were nearly 100,000 enslaved women and men in North Carolina by the eve of the American Revolution. But the author said that they had also documented only one voyage to the colony directly from Africa. 100,000 people, one known voyage.
There you go. It's been we come from Africa is a lie. That's one of the leading experts on earth saying, he studies his whole career has been dedicated to the transatlantic slave trade. Africa to the Americas. And he says, when you look at United States of America, all these Africans just don't appear. One more time. This is what he said. I'm not saying it.
The colony of North Carolina offers a great example.
So the colony of North Carolina, he said there was 100,000 slaves. Only one slave ship from Africa that they can prove. One more time.
A book that I read on slavery in colonial North Carolina taught me that there were nearly 100,000 enslaved women and men in North Carolina by the eve of the American Revolution. But the author said that they had also documented only one voyage to the colony directly from Africa. 100,000 people, one known voyage.
There you go. And so,
right. So can I respond to that? Can I respond to that? Can I respond to that? Hang on, Ola. Let me respond to that. Wall Street. If you notice, he said directly from Africa. Only one voyage directly from Africa. A lot of them could have came from the Caribbean or from South America, but that doesn't mean that there weren't slaves coming in. It said right. It said direct. Exactly. So that doesn't really prove anything. Again, USA.
Yeah. No.
It doesn't prove anything.
No, it proves everything, because you said 400,000 slaves came from Africa. You can't prove that. That's the point. That's a lie. Like let me help you out, American Dream. And I want you to listen to me, because I'm going to speak honest truth to you. When they say 400,000 slaves came from Africa to America, United States of America, you do realize they admit at the very same time that's an estimate. They don't have proof. So when you say, well, hey, are you saying you guys didn't come from Africa? No, there's no proof. They'll tell you that. They'll tell you,
right,
like,
but they're not. But even that estimate, though, USA is not directly from Africa. What I'm saying is some of them were shipped from Africa to the Caribbean, and then from the Caribbean to America. But
okay, no, you're wrong again. No, listen.
Okay.
No, they say only 60,000 came from the Caribbean. They say 400,000 came directly from Africa.
He's saying
60,000 came from the Caribbean. Both estimates they can't prove. They cannot prove 400,000 Africans arrived here, and they cannot prove 60,000 Caribbeans came. They can't. They'll tell you, like, yo, these are all estimates.
I'm going to tell you what else you can't prove, though. You also
Please, hang on a second. Who's speaking? Who's speaking?
This is Wall Street Willie.
Wall Street Willie. Hang on, Wall Street Willie. Let me say thank you for coming out. Let me greet you before you start speaking, if that's okay with you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for hitting the link. I appreciate you coming up. The goal is to bridge the gap. So let's talk, like, you know what I mean? Like we're just really trying to learn and trying to build. But again, thank you for coming up. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. So on the proof side of it, there's literally zero proof that blacks in our current form, anything like us, was here prior to 1492. It gets literally so weird that people start using Olmec statues and things like that. People can't find a single treaty, right, of these black aboriginals to America between any of the people that came in and invaded America. And that's a documented history verified by multiple groups, right? Slavery as well is a history that's documented by multiple groups. You have the Europeans who came over here documenting slavery. You have them documenting slavery outside of America, all through the Caribbean. You have the people of the Caribbean documenting slavery. These are various forms of proof. Now, if you're looking for a specific number of how many slaves came in 1712, it's going to be very hard to find those numbers. Again, you're talking about a corrupt institution. So people aren't keeping the best, records for a RICO charge, right? But it's a reality that our history in the transatlantic slave trade is very well documented. I tell Aboriginals all the time, right? You don't need to prove the legitimacy of your argument through me. Prove it through the Native American who is accepted all over the world and in government treaties and documents as the original people here.
Hey, Wall Street, we already talked about that. You're completely wrong on that. We've already covered that. Listen later on, bro. We've already walked through that. I walked them through that. You're wrong on that. So that's totally
Where was I wrong?
Continue on. Yeah, when you just said, well, the government accepts these native people as being natives, I've already dealt with that, bro. Like you're already late to the game.
I'm asking you,
So
where
move
was I
forward.
wrong? Because like the same way you said only one voyage coming into North Carolina,
I didn't
right?
say that. The experts say that. I didn't say that.
Right. But you presented it as a part of your argument. So let's not have a disingenuous argument, right?
Okay, no. Hang on. Let me just play it
You
again.
presented, hold on. You presented that one boat came into North Carolina as if that was some form of proof.
No.
The amount of slaves coming into.
Listen. Hang on. Let me just play it again.
The colony of North Carolina offers a great example. A book that I read on slavery in colonial North Carolina taught me that there were nearly 100,000 enslaved women and men in North Carolina by the eve of the American Revolution. But the author said that they had also documented only one voyage to the colony directly from Africa. 100,000 people, one known voyage.
That's all I'm saying. That's what he said. Don't talk to me. He said 100,000 slaves in North Carolina, only one slave ship from Africa. Where the slaves come from? The native.
So
Yeah. But that's I'm giving you an expert.
So let's deal with what he said though. Let's slow down. Let's slow walk it. Do you know what year the American Revolution was? We're talking like 1763. I don't play the disingenuous asking questions that nobody can answer game, right? So we're talking about the mid 1700s, right? 100,000 slaves at that point. You do realize there was a breeding process for slaves and all types of other things, but sometimes we just jumped the broom behind the slave quarters and created families before they were ripped apart and sold or whatever. If you're starting with 100,000 in the 1700s, can you imagine what that number will balloon to?
The American Revolution started in 1775. You said 1760. You're a decade and a half off. But continue on. You're just a decade and a half off. You said 1760. Revolution kicked off in 1775.
1783 is when it ended.
Yeah, but you said it started in the 1760s. You're a decade off.
I said 1765.
You're a decade off. You're a decade off.
No, I'm not a decade off.
The American Revolution started in 1775.
You're giving me 1783. That's the year it ended.
1775 is when it started, not 1765. You're a decade off. Google it, bro. Just Google it. Google when did the American Revolution kick off? 1775, not 1765. You're a decade off. But continue on. Make your point. What's your point?
An epic political and military struggle waged between 1765 and 1783 when 13 of Britain's North American colonies rejected imperial rule. That's not
the American Revolution. 1775 is the official date of the American Revolution, not 1765. You're a decade off. That is irrefutable. That's just history. Move on. What's your point? You want to make a point? Make your point.
I mean, I kind of made the point. I was responding.
Move on, bro. Anybody can Google this, bro. Anybody can Google
but you're cutting me off.
Okay, go ahead.
Right. What I'm saying is, if he's talking about there were 100,000 slaves at that point, and that's what's documented, right? We always talk about what's no longer documented and can't be proven. So
can I interrupt you for a second? You're wrong. He didn't say no. He didn't say that was all the slaves in America. He spoke of the
North Carolina.
North Carolina. You just said, well, if that was all the slaves in America. No, you're wrong, bro.
I'm talking about North Carolina.
Okay, then say that, because you just said if that was all the slaves here.
Me off, so you're
because I'm correcting you.
Train of thought.
No,
so let me clarify if I misspoke.
Thank you.
He made the specific statement that during the American Revolution, there were 100,000 documented slaves in North Carolina, correct?
There you go.
Correct?
Continue. Yes.
So now, when we talk about all that can't be proven, are you just sticking to that 100,000 number, or is it more than likely there were more?
In North Carolina, there were 100,000 slaves, only one slave ship from Africa.
So you're sticking to that number. Fine.
Yes.
That's the number that can be proven. So now
this is an expert saying this, bro.
Jesus Christ, bro. Experts say a lot. Experts say a lot. That doesn't mean we shouldn't dissect the information. Yeah.
What is your point? You want to make a point. What's your point?
I forgot my point. Now you keep cutting me off. But okay, I just don't even think that he was asserting that in North Carolina, it's what you're saying. Even if one voyage came to North Carolina, there was still slave ports in Baltimore. There were still trading blocks in New York City, right? Where slaves were sold, where people from North Carolina, South Carolina, and Virginia would go to buy their slaves. So the slaves didn't have to get Uber Eats directly to North Carolina. You get what I'm saying? Some people actually drive to the takeout spot. Does that make sense?
You don't make sense because you're trying to prove. No, I'll prove it to you. You're trying to prove that the slaves came from Africa. You have yet to prove it. You haven't given one piece of evidence. Nothing. I'm still waiting. Prove it that we came from Africa. 400,000. I want you to prove it to everybody, and I'll shut the hell up. Prove it. Show me your proof that we came from Africa. 400,000 Africans came here through the transatlantic slave trade. Prove it, and I will sit here and apologize to you and leave this panel right now. Show me your proof. Go ahead.
Prove that we didn't.
No. You said we did.
When you ask me a disingenuous, goofy
when you say something is, you have to prove it. No. Okay, everyone, you cannot prove that we came from Africa. I win the debate because you can't.
No, you don't.
Yes,
you can't prove that we didn't.
No, I don't need to prove it.
I can prove how blacks in America were identifying themselves. I can prove that in the 1700s they were identifying as African. That's why in a lot of African
I can
cities,
prove you wrong on that too. That is wrong. Frederick Douglass in the 1800s said we're not. Okay, let's go to Frederick Douglass. He's famous. You know what he said? We're not African. He goes, we have nothing to do with Africa. Not socially, wise. He goes, we are American. He goes, our ancestors' blood, bones, and ligaments are buried in the soil. We are American. And then he said that if anything, we're admixed with the white man, the slave owners. Frederick Douglass is not saying that we.
Have you ever heard about the
African.
project to create Central Park in New York City?
What's that?
Have you ever heard about the project to create Central Park in New York City? A lot of the FBA aboriginal argument, which is a lie, they start talking about Seneca Village. You will find no reference in the moment, to a Seneca Village. That's some bullshit that's made up a long time after. What it was, hold on, let me land. Let me complete one coherent thought, my brother, right? So you will find no one referring to this part of town as Seneca Village. What it is referred to, right, in pretty much every New York publication is Nigger Town. That's what they called it.
Cool.
Black Americans.
Okay, cool. Nigger Town.
Black Americans, right, brought that property, and they are documented in history by lot, right? Those homes are documented. You know what's the cornerstone of that town? Do you want to know how those people identified themselves? Do you want to know where they went every Sunday? The African Methodist Episcopal Church. This is how these people identified themselves in the 1700s.
Bro, let me help you.
So now you're coming in and changing. You're saying how they identify themselves is wrong.
Okay, this is how you're wrong. Do you know who created the African? Did you say the African Methodist Episcopal Church? Did you say that?
AME, you heard my point.
Yeah, AME. Okay, everybody listen. I respect you, brother, but you're lost on these topics, bro. You're really lost because the creator of AME was a man named Richard Allen. Did you know his mother was a whole Native Indian? Right? And did you know he married a Native Indian woman and he had kids with that Native Indian woman? And did you know his sister married a Native Indian man? So this man was at minimum half Native Indian. His mother, look it up. Everybody can Google it. His mother is a certified Native tribal person, right? And so this guy was half. Richard Allen. No, Richard Allen was.
What tribe?
Oh, I don't know. I forgot.
I know
look it up.
I win the debate.
No, look it up.
Disingenuous your argument.
Will you let me land?
I
let you speak.
Win the debate.
I let you speak. Now
no,
listen.
You really didn't, but I'm listening.
No. I'm going to prove you wrong. Because do you know why Richard Allen started the African Methodist Episcopal Church? Because he got kicked out of the white Methodist church. Him and some friends were praying in the Methodist church. And the white people kicked him out of the Methodist church, which he loved the white Methodist church. So he started something. He goes, well, we got to name it something. Let's just name it the African Methodist Episcopal Church. Did you know the congregants said, no, let me finish. Let me finish. Did you know the congregants said to him, "We don't like that African title because it makes it look like we're immigrants from Africa. We're not African." So his own constituents said, "No, we shouldn't have African on it because we're not African."
That's not the case for these people I'm speaking of.
The creation of the. No, you said AME. That's
These
how it
people
started.
I'm speaking of who identified as AME, they were identifying as the descendants of Africans.
You are so okay.
100%
How
without
can
a
that
doubt.
be when Richard Allen, who created it, was at minimum half Native Indian? Literally, how could he be an African if his mother was a native tribal person and he had kids with this woman? So there's no way this guy can identify as African when his whole mama was a native tribal person. This is a fact. This is a fact.
You're making the argument small.
No, this is a fact.
I never said Richard Allen identified as African. I'm talking about the people that were attached to the AME church. They were identifying with their origin, their descendants. They were from Africa.
Right, hang on a second, gentlemen. Hang on 1 second, gentlemen.
Hold on.
Wall Street. Hang on a sec. Go ahead. Let this be the last thing. Then I want to say something.
Have you ever heard of the Hotel Afrique?
Are you talking to me?
Yes.
The Hotel Freak?
The Hotel Afrique. AFRQUE.
No,
I went
what
to the
time?
Outer Banks.
I don't know. What
I went to
time
the Outer
period?
Banks in North Carolina, took my kids out there. So the Hotel Afrique is a place that, following the Civil War, right?
Yeah.
Now you have all these blacks the general's name is slipping my head, but you had these blacks following this general. The general says, all right, we're going to let the blacks fight in the war. Like, at least let's put them to use. So now the war's over. They're not going back into slavery, right? So they were trying to figure out where to go. They created the Hotel Afrique, which was a place where blacks could kind of get an idea of where you want to go next, right? My point is, you see Africa in the moment, not some new made up Seneca Village shit, right? That we talk about in 2025. I'm saying how they identify themselves, how they name their organizations and their churches and even their businesses, right? You see a line of Africa, Africa, all the way through it. That's my proof. And that proof can't be dismissed.
He's playing word games.
So let me ask you a question, USA, if I can. I notice in your name you're USA DOCS, and I presume that's descendant of chattel slavery.
Yes.
Is there any particular, because ADOS is just descendants of slaves? Is there any reason why you think it's important to put the C in there? Are you delineating from ADOS by putting the C in there?
No, just being more specific. We're the only Americans. That's what we are, Americans. You're a Jamaican. I'm an American.
You're the only Americans.
Yeah,
so you don't consider white. So you don't consider the white folks to be Americans.
No, they're European immigrants. All white people admit.
So when you said America,
white.
But you said America was done building in 1790. Are you saying that the European immigrants that came here that wrote the Constitution, are you saying they had nothing to do with the creation of America?
No,
and that they're not Americans?
They designed America and we built it. Yeah, the founding fathers, George Washington, Thomas Jefferson. Yeah, these are the people who created the three levers of government.
So how are they not American then? So
because
how are you guys the only
they're from England. Oh, let me give you an example.
But you're from Africa.
No, see, we're not from Africa. We're the natives. Remember, you never established.
So you're a native Indian. Africa. You're not an American.
No,
you're a native.
We're not native Indian.
So what are you? What are you? So you're not native to the USA.
Yes,
the USA was not. Hold on, USA. The USA was not in existence before the white man came and created the USA, this government that you're talking about. Because when you say you're foundational, you're talking about the America that was created in 1790 with the government that you said was already built and everything. So you're talking about the United States of America. So how are you foundational to that, but the white people that designed that are not?
Easy. Today, this morning, I watched a news report in England. And in England, they have a statue of George Washington. That's where he comes from, England. And they just repolished it and refurbished it. And they did a re-release of the statue. They pulled the curtains over, the curtains out, and this humongous statue of George Washington is in England. That's his heritage. That's his lineage.
What I'm saying, but
that is proof. No, but I'm answering your point. He's English. George Washington.
And you're African. Any route,
Okay.
any route. Hang on, USA. Any route that Tariq laid out for how Black Americans are native to America. Any route that you take goes back to Africa, whether it's the pre-Columbus explorers. They explored and came here from Africa. The 1526 people, they were slaves that were brought here from Africa. 1619, slaves that were brought here from Africa. So it was certainly as George Washington and everybody else came from England, y'all came from Africa. The native Indians came from Asia somewhere. So how were you more foundational than anyone else, especially to the United States, when all of y'all came from somewhere else? I'm at a loss to try and understand what you're saying.
What I'm saying is, we are the natives. We didn't come from Africa. You heard the experts say 100,000 slaves in North Carolina. Only one slave ship came from Africa. Bro, we're the natives. They destiny swapped. The people on these reservations are largely white people mixed with some Asian. That's why they look Mexican. And we're the natives. It's destiny swap, right? You can't.
When you say you're the native, what do you mean by that? Do you mean
we've been here
hold on?
We've been here.
Do you mean you have been on this continent for how long?
How
long do you trace your?
Well, we've been here forever.
We can draw a line and say
We
1492.
come from the land here. We've always been here, bro.
So
Before the native red
1492.
Indian, before the Siberian Mongoloid came here, thousands of years ago, we were here. The
What
mound
proof
builders.
do you have of that?
Well, where else do we come from? The proof is
What proof do you have of that?
else-
Not where else do we come from. The where else, in my estimation, is Africa.
Well,
Now,
that's-
what is your
okay,
proof?
but you cannot
What is your
prove
proof
that.
that Black American, that Black people have been on this continent forever? What's your proof of that?
Okay, when they did the that Lucia, that was 13,000 years ago. That's a black woman, right? The
No.
Lucia.
That's not true.
You can look it up. Lucia is a black woman, right?
Now, you know, USA,
Lucia
you've looked up and read a couple of things already today. Can you look up and read something that says Black people have been on the American continent since the beginning of time?
I don't need to prove that part. No, hang on.
What do you mean you don't need to prove that? That's your major claim. That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous, bro.
Listen. When you do our genealogy, this is the proof that we're the native. When you do our genealogy, no African pops up.
75% popped up for me.
No, bro. When I've done my genealogy, and when we as a people, Tariq Nasheed, Afro Elite,
What
Black
pops
Alpha
up?
Network,
What comes
listen.
up for you? What comes up for you?
African comes
What
up.
comes up for
comes
you?
up is these native tribes and Negroes. No African. I have not found a
But
African.
the native tribe, but hold on, bro. Hold on. The native tribes came from Asia.
Bro, we are in a
The native tribe, you already said the native
listen.
tribes weren't here forever. So
No,
if
they've
you
been
go
here
back to the
thousands
native
of years.
tribes, you weren't here forever either, because the native tribes migrated over the Barren Straits, remember?
Yes, and there were.
So how
black
were you
people
here forever? If you go back
them.
to them,
Listen,
you go back to Asia. So are you saying y'all are Asians?
No, listen. Are you telling me experts do not say now that there have been people here over 100,000 years? That's a yes or no.
The experts say what?
That people have been in this place we now call America for over 100,000 years. Are you saying archaeologists and
Not black people? Not black people. That's why I want you to read to me.
Right.
I want
that
you
was
to
my
read
answer.
to me
Okay,
where it
listen
says
to me. Okay,
black people
Lucia,
have been here
no.
since the beginning.
Look at Lucia, 13,000 years ago. She comes from North America. That's a black woman.
But guess what, though?
That's a fact.
What
That,
made
like,
Lucia...
no, let me
I think you're
talk.
making
Can
that
you
up.
let me
You're
talk?
making that up.
Can you let me
Lucia-
talk?
What
You
made
would say, I think you're
Lucia-
making that up,
Okay.
Hold on.
No,
I know
bro.
about Lucia.
Bro, he asked me a
What
Hang
question,
on,
not
Wall
you.
Street. Let him speak. Let him finish,
Bro.
Wall Street. Then you can speak.
Wall
go
Street.
Wall
will you be
Street, let him
quiet,
speak.
bro?
Remember your thought, Wall
Jeez.
Street, but just let him finish his thought.
Lucia is 13,000 years old. That's a black woman from North America. 72, I think it was 72 scientists from 8 different organizations looked it up. I mean, they put her back together. It was like, yeah, this is a black woman. So I think it's 72 different organizations, 72 different scientists, something like that. But they said, yeah, Lucia is 13,000 years old, and this is a black woman. When you look at the Olmecs, come on, that's a black person. And also the mound builders. Okay, and also check this out. There's archaeologists. His one name is Juan something, from the 1500s, I do believe. He said America was a Negro continent. This is a Latin American anthropologist, I do believe, from the 1500s or something like that. He
wasn't
literally
an
wrote.
anthropologist.
No, listen. He wrote that he said America was a Negro continent. So there's many archaeologists who have said, yeah, there were straight up Negroes here. And in fact, the one I can look him up right now if I got it, but he literally said that he goes, these skulls are different from the Mongoloids that came through Siberia, the Siberian natives. He said that these natives were Negro features. He goes, this was a Negro continent. Without a doubt, he says that America was a Negro continent before these red native people showed up.
Can you pull up a source for that? Can you pull up a source for that?
Yeah,
and hang on, Wall Street. I'm going to come right to you, Wall Street.
Yeah, I'm going to look it up.
Yeah, I'm going to need you to pull up a source for that, USA. And while USA is pulling up the source, people in the chat, can you please hit the like button? We're getting a few more people in here, but if we could please hit the like button, that would be great. I think this is a great conversation, and I know you think it's a great conversation, which is why you're sticking around. So please hit the like button if you don't mind. It only takes a second. Wall Street, you wanted to reply to his Lucia comment?
First off, I just hit all 3. The like button, the subscribe, and the notification bell. This is a good conversation, right? And it's respectful, even though we're passionate about our conversations. So it's salute to all 3 of us, right? Especially you, USA, right? Because I can tell you're passionate about it. With regard to Lucia, right? What made that such an amazing find was the fact that the genes that they did find tied to original African genealogy. The argument is it goes back past, I want to say the haplogroup was L2. That's what made it so amazing. It was still tied to Africa, right? That's what made Lucia even a topic to be discussed. It wasn't that she was just this black person in America. They're saying, no, we found genes that clearly come from Africa here in America. That was the thing behind that find, right? So that goes into the conversation of haplogroups, genealogy, all of this stuff. You have the back to Africa theory and all these different things, but it's not saying she was just a black woman that was just originally here in America. No, the argument is, right, this is proof that these people moved all around the earth. But the origin of it, those same scientists all agree that those origins are literally some of the most pure African DNA. That's what made it a big deal.
Bro, okay. I don't know where you read it from, but what I read, it said that these were native to North America. They didn't say anything about Africa. So you can go ahead and put your own your own slant to it. But what I've studied, no, it said this woman, Lucia, was native to North America, bro. They didn't say anything about African, bro. North America. So if you want to believe they came from Africa, go ahead. But scientists say that Lucia, which is a black woman, said, yeah, and it shocked these scientists to say, whoa, this is a black woman. Yeah, there's black people that always been here, bro. I'm trying to find that archaeologist. Maybe it's on my other computer, so I can't find it right now. But yeah, the archaeologist said that America was a Negro continent. Outside of the Mongoloids that came from Siberia, he goes, no. There's a different breed that was here. This is a Negro
So let me ask
continent.
you this question, USA. If y'all have always been here, why do you refer to yourself as a descendant of chattel slavery? Why aren't you a descendant of the native black people that were here?
Oh, that's a great question. We had an ethnogenesis. See, during slavery, they started breeding our ancestors, the natives, and they were breeding hundreds, if not thousands, of different tribes. A few Africans were thrown in the mix, for sure. They had East Indian slaves. A few thousand East Indian slaves are documented being here. Threw them in the mix, and these slave owners like Thomas Jefferson and them, they bred themselves into that. So we are an amalgamation of the natives with elite European admixture. The slave owners. That's a fact.
So you're
Even
more so you're more of a descendant of people that were bred.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly who we are. We had an ethnogenesis during slavery where they bred us with each other, and sent us all, like Wall Street said, they sent us all around America, breeding us, selling us. And the slave owners like George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Benjamin Franklin, they bred themselves into that. And that's
so it's more likely. So if you are bred,
the Aboriginal people.
Yeah, if you are bred, it's more likely. So you would have African ancestry because they weren't just breeding the natives that were here from the beginning. They were breeding y'all with the Africans, right?
No, because Africans, only a few, 10,000, 50,000. They're only a drop in the rain bucket. So experts now agree that there were millions and millions and millions and millions of native slaves here in North and South America. Let me say this again. Historians are now saying, wait a minute. This slavery of the natives was way bigger than we thought. And they now admit that there were upwards of 5 million slaves in North America and South America. 5 million slaves. That's more than enough slaves for us to come from. From the 1500s to the 1800s.
In the 1500s, there were 5 million slaves?
No, over that time period of the 1500s to the 1800s, 400 years, there were upwards of 5 million.
But that includes the transatlantic slave trade.
No, not even that. No.
They're
saying no. That has nothing to do with the transatlantic slave trade. They're talking about straight up natives.
So you're saying before the transatlantic slave trade, there was over 5 million slaves in America?
No, during that period, excluding the Africans. Between the 1500s and the 1800s, they're just talking about native slaves in North America and South America. Just the natives enslaved. There were upwards of 5 million natives enslaved in North America and South America. Apart from the Africans, that's another group. All these damn flies.
Apart from the Africans, so are you talking, and you think instead of native Indians, you think they're talking about native blacks?
No, the natives. When I say natives, I'm also talking about these Siberian Mongoloids that came here thousands of years ago. I will call them natives too. And the natives that were already here, the blacks. Like the guy said, this was a Negro continent. So
and what percent of that 5 million? What percent of that 5 million would you say are native blacks?
Nobody knows because there were not a census. Nobody knows that. I would never.
Yeah, I think you're gonna have to pull up some sources. I think you're only pulling up sources when it works to your advantage, but you still haven't shown any source. And you know what I mean. I think you're just talking right now. I don't think any of what you're saying is factual.
Well, you don't have to believe it, but you can't. Okay, just say everything I said. Let's throw it out the window. You still can't prove we come from Africa. Well, that means we're the natives because you can't prove we come from Africa. That I know for a fact. No one on earth can prove we come from Africa. That's proof we're the natives. With elite European,
you would have to say that if you're an FBA, according to Tariq, if you go to the FBA website, it says y'all come from Africa. The FBA website traces your heritage back to 1526 when slaves were brought here by the Spanish. That's where Tariq traces y'all back to. So you don't have a problem with me. You have a problem with your leader.
I want you to listen very, very carefully.
Tell the youth them to be strong. You can't tell the youth them to preach wrongs. While you trod it on these lands, just remember every man is equal. Yeah. Each one teach one, and our Father God, him are the only done. So make we reason, smoke trees, span the ends, all of the meds. Take a look at life, and don't close your eyes. Sometimes things happen, and it's no surprise. And I just, so it go, so it go, so it go, so it go. It's a government, no have no heart, them no care about poor people. Yeah, bigger heads no love people again. Them more than little of them. Me see friends now reason again. Vex through whistle a blame. More time it hurt me to see how the face deal with the eagle of them. Regular me see it happen, regular me see it happen. Take a look at life and don't close your eyes. Sometimes things happen and it's no surprise. And I just so it go, so it go, so it go, so it go. It's a government no have no heart, them no care about poor people. Social commentary. Drop that one, your principle, you don't know. The global will come and do it. Some people life every day, it's stress. The high price from JPS, that topic is currently. Jah alone, him a go help you. We need food, cause we no healthy. We are feel the pain, beg you protect we. In our life, we have no fanfare. Take a look at life and don't close your eyes. Sometimes things happen and it's no surprise. And I just so it go, so it go, so it go, so it go. It's a government no have no heart, them no care about poor people.